My name is Alex Ogle. I'm Adult Social Care Performance Manager for Hertfordshire County Council. What excites me at the moment about technology and adult social care commissioning, it just gives a lot more kind of data and analysis to bring in a lot of different aspects of commissioning. Not just that provider monitoring, but the kind of placements, the people, understanding flow and demand through adult social care and applying that alongside the commissioning data sets. We're doing a lot around assistive technology as well at the moment in Hertfordshire. So a lot of that is quite exciting from a data perspective, at least. Obviously that is my role. So it's great to understand the kind of big data approaches to stuff and trying to bring that into the wider commissioning tools and analysis that we're doing, and like I say, that contract creation that we do with providers as well before we do it. And also understanding a little bit about people in place, because we want to understand a lot more about the kind of people that we have in a district or a town, understanding what commissioning works in those areas that doesn't work, say, overall for Hertfordshire as well. AI is very interesting. I think a lot of us regionally, nationally are looking at it at the moment, not necessarily in just letting loose with it on data sets or anything like that at all, but having it in the kind of thinking around how we can utilize it to look at the kind of bigger data sets and the kind of adults and processes that we can change to improve flow of adults through the system when they are with us in adult social care. But like I say, identifying those people earlier that need support, that could be supported by voluntary sector, could be supported within the community before they come down. And things like carer breakdown, etc. And supporting carers as well from a preventive point of view too. So I think it's something that we all want to look at and try and kind of improve and use the technology to do so, really. Connecting the data sets together can be ongoing work with other authorities, with other bodies such as the NHS. Everything is trying to drive that way for one big connected data set, but everybody does everything differently. So I think those are the biggest challenges, trying to overstep that kind of single identifier for one person across all the systems that are there. And I think it is happening. A lot of the kind of statutory Department of Health and Social Care data sets are starting to look at that kind of one view, NHS number, for example, to try and do that. And it's really interesting with some of the kind of connections, including PAMMS, and locating and connecting data sets such as credit scores, all those kind of things that we utilize, for example, risk profile, to build that, like you say, that more holistic view of the adults and the carers that we support. So I think it's moving that way and it's getting much better. There are still some gaps there in trying to understand that full pathway for a person in the community, in care, across the different kind of national bodies, including ourselves. And from my perspective, being able to report back operationally, senior management boards, our directors, about individual homes, how many people we support there, what those CQC scores are, what the PAMMS scores are, what the commitment scores are there. It's been really useful to be able to do that as a kind of powerful tool, and has helped as a kind of evidence base for CQC Assurance as they've come as well. So it's like I say, it's being used a lot more by to drive our strategy and our operational priorities. It's being used a lot more by our commissioning teams. I utilise that data in our kind of monthly, quarterly reporting that we do for our operational leads, PAMMS scores, CQC scores. We produce a quarterly pack for our senior management board and our directors that includes all those data sets. And it's really powerful, again, to see that how many people are we supporting against these CQC scored areas versus our local monitoring scores versus the activity. And I think that's been really powerful going to those kind of meetings, including our cabinet panel members as well. So we're quite transparent with all of that to give a richer view of the quality alongside the kind of activity and data and outcomes that we report alongside the rest of the kind of adult social care data set. So from my perspective, it's been really useful. I think understanding, like I say, all those kind of scores, that quality score against the people and the adults that we support and the cost we're spending in those kind of areas, I think it's been useful. We're slowly bringing on board the other Eastern Region authorities, because a big area of PAMMS Landscape was to be able to compare ourselves across providers across the region. So we've got 2 or 3 on there now, including ourselves. And that's been quite useful. And it's quite useful, the powerful visuals that we have on in and out of county placements, the cost of those placements, that kind of quick reference point for some of the kind of projection work that we're doing. So we've still got some areas to look at there. But it's still quite interesting to be able to quickly flip between length of stay on residential nursing, and again linking those back to those kind of CQC score, PAMMS score, quality monitoring elements, not just the data and the people supported and the costs, looking at that kind of quality element too. And obviously it's feeding into our wider performance reporting, has helped kind of give that evidence that it's used widely across the process and our performance framework as well. It was a challenging process. I think, from our perspective, at least in the Eastern region, I'd say probably from my Eastern region colleagues as well, that we've had time to prepare for it. We knew it was coming. Like I say, Hertfordshire were one of the first, so it was a bit of a challenge to get straight into the process and return within timescales, but I think we did. I think, like I say, a lot of what we produce or provide from an evidence base was strong because we prepared for it. And we have the tools like PAMMS Landscape, etc., as a kind of reference point for how we commission and how we ensure quality across the providers we have and how we monitor it. But yeah, it was a challenging process. Good to come out the back of it from that perspective. But yeah, an interesting and a good process really. Not just to challenge, not to be challenged, but just to challenge ourselves really as well on from my perspective, how we provide data, how data is fed, not just at the kind of top levels, but all the way through, down to staff and team managers as well, how they access it, how they know how to access the data. So I think it's a good challenge for our processes as well as the kind of CQC assurance process just in itself. People's understanding and us just challenging us again, just to get back into the rhythm of everybody, data being everybody's business really, for example, and all those tools that are out there and available, making sure everybody knows that they're available to use and have access to really. So I think that was the most useful part. So obviously we've got our own internal systems that we utilise from the adult social care system that we have and the finance system that we have, and we've got rigorous processes and the data sets that we use there. Across that process, the ability to look at activity, outcomes, performance from a statutory perspective on that, and then, like you say, the richer part that we have from our national surveys and feedback and local surveys that we do. And then, like I say, from that commissioning perspective is that additional element of having examples of working towards PAMMS Landscape and being the kind of core kind of authority to be the first to try and use it and build around it and feedback closely to shape how it came out was really useful as well. And like I say, a really good strong evidence point because it's a core area where all these bits of activity, finance, cost, CQC, PAMMS score, etc. are all in one place that are accessible by teams and our commissioning team, as well as our finance team, although we're linking in with them a little bit more to try and get it kind of closer to what they're used to seeing from a finance perspective as well. So I would say that the CQC assurance process is a massive process. It's reviewing top to bottom the pathway for adults through adult social care, being aware of the process required, and the people that are required to be involved. So you want to get that operational buy-in from your commissioners and say your finance leads early, so they understand what that kind of implementation is going to look like and what kind of benefits they can get out of it. We did do that early. We had regular meetings with PAMMS, the PAMMS group and everybody else to kind of talk our commissioners through it and understand it. And I think it just takes that kind of repetitive viewing of the benefits of how to utilize it. I think from a technology perspective, it was easy from my side as the data performance side of things because I'm used to those kind of tools. But introducing it to your operational teams, your commissioners, your finances, it takes that little bit more effort to try and get the buy-in. And it contains a lot of information, a lot of really good information. But it's trying to get that kind of buy-in and also understanding the time it takes for your technology team, your intelligence team to pull the data together, set up the kind of the process with report gates, etc., to kind of get it into place. So it's just understanding a timeliness approach to that and how long that's going to take. So I think engaging early with each area that's going to be involved in it, particularly your technology team at the start, to try and get it delivered and fed back. Doing it differently would be very much trying to get the finance groups in a little bit more from the start. I think that was a bit of our understanding of how the tool was going to work, and it's expanded since we first started looking at it landscape. So engaging more with our kind of finance leads as well, because there are those tools within that to help a lot of the work that they might do. So yeah, I think it's just that wider engagement and getting buy-in a bit quicker, which is why probably I'd advise to do that from the start as well. I think most people look at it. Obviously, you always get the kind of those who are data literate, I should say, being much more excited because they're ready to go in there. There are some that aren't as data literate who are excited, but a bit more kind of pensive about how to utilize it on a day-to-day basis, and that's where the bit of extra work is coming in from my team, is trying to support the teams to use it a bit more. But yeah, I think quite exciting because some of the visuals, the outputs of it, the connection of the data sets for it, things like the in and out of county, that CQC, that PAMMS, that people supported, that commitment, all that kind of stuff together in one place is quite good. So it makes a difference for them. It's a challenging one because, like I say, we were one of the first to do the process in the region. So it took a little bit longer because we're in a bit of back and forth. And it all depends at these kind of stages, particularly with everything that's going on, particularly for councils at the moment. You know, CQC Assurance alone takes up a lot of time. But that kind of link in with a kind of process, and we've helped a lot of some of the other authorities in the region to get a good understanding. You know, 6 months to kind of get in that technical elements in, understanding the feedback back and forth about what the data is doing, what it isn't doing, the mapping of those kind of elements. I'd say that is probably at least a kind of good target, 6 to 12 months to get to a point where you've kind of gone live and you're testing and feeding back, but it could be different for everybody. It's a bit of a challenging time at the moment that people might find, but yeah, I'd say that's about the time scale. So I think risk profile has grown particularly because now our commissioners are rethinking how they're utilising this risk-based approach to provider monitoring. So I think they're doing a bit of a mix, and they've used risk profile as that kind of new base to understand who do we want to make a visit to first versus CQC. I think just being, you know, our commissioning teams, and I hope our commissioning lead would say the same, is that having a quicker understanding of where our providers are. Not that they didn't before, but there is that much more visual view of where we think providers sit. So I think, like I say, it has changed that possible approach, that kind of risk-based approach to provider monitoring, and driven that kind of change. And certainly, like I say, from a data and intelligence point of view, we're utilising a lot more of that kind of richer information in our day-to-day reporting to feedback on all our providers. And it's right there, so it's easier to kind of access and feedback on. Again, I think it's, you know, from our operational teams, I'll put commissioning aside. So our operational teams were just looking at rolling out a bit more widely for them to utilise. But I think they find, again, that kind of view of what are my placements, who are the people that we're supporting that are in this home, and what does that kind of breakdown look like? And they can get right to that richer information about the assessment itself, so they can understand what's working, what's not, why is that score there for PAMMS, why is that score there for CQC, what is that cost, etc. So they're, you know, having thoughts about where placements might go and working with commissions about why those placements might be the best place to go or change. And so I think it is having that kind of effect operationally for them to be able to make a few more decisions about how they approach a placement or a change in provider, for example.